My name's Tim Ashby. I'm the product manager of the Discover suite. This is week 4 of the Datamine Exploration Portfolio webinar series. So far in the series, we've listened to John Shippick, VP of Exploration. He's walked us through at a high level of the exploration portfolio. If you've registered, you can go back and have a look at all these webinars, so it's not an issue. Courtney Raddy, she presented our land track, so that's our land management solution. And we've also listened to Norm Ballamare. So he sort of detailed our Fusion product. That's Datamine's Geological database management system. So today I'll step you through the Discover product range, displaying the numerous functions and enhancements for your exploration productivity. If you've got any questions throughout the webinar, there is a little Q&A button that should be on your Zoom toolbar. I'll attempt to answer those throughout. If not, we can do it at the end of the webinar. Okay. And if you're having troubles hearing me, or if it's a bit glitchy, please just put a comment in the Q&A, so I'll attend to that. So just in case I don't want to be speaking and no one can hear me. All right, so as far as the exploration portfolio, this is what we sort of define as the mining life cycle. We break it up into 3 distinct categories. It's the explore, learn, and mine phases. So what our products mainly deal with is the explore phase. So that's where you're basically taking a project from concept, you're drilling out ore bodies, you're sampling, and you're trying to see if there's any sort of economic viability in the prospect. So we've got our products Discover, Discover 3D, and Discover Mobile. And what you're basically dealing with is regional prospectivity, exploration lease assessment, prospect evaluation, and targeted drilling. So all the other phases of the mining life cycle, that's sort of where you're getting into that pre-mining and mining phases. And we do have other solutions for that. But for the purposes of this webinar, we're just going to concentrate in that first half. Okay, so the Discover product range encompasses several GIS systems and mobile platforms. We've got Discover for MapInfo Pro, Discover 3D for MapInfo Pro, Discover for ArcGIS Pro, lots of pro words, Discover Mobile for iOS, and Discover Mobile for Android. And for the purposes of this webinar, we're going to be looking at the ArcGIS solutions, but however, pretty much all the tools are the same in MapInfo anyway, so there's not too much of a difference. All right, so as far as your exploration activities with ArcGIS Pro, we basically, what we basically deal with are things like the collate, the consult, the collect, the analyze, the plan, and communicate phases of that mining life cycle. So we've tried to structure all our tools around this premise. All right, so as far as the collate stage, one of sort of our main tools in Discover, it's to do with drilling data. So we support a large range of imports for our drilling data. It should encompass most of the activities and ways that you're interacting with your collection devices out in the field. We support Esri tables and geodatabases, Esri database connections, Access, Excel spreadsheets, CSV, and our own database solutions, Acquire, Fusion, Datamine tables, ODBC, and also GINT databases. And you'll also see here that there is interactivity between ArcGIS and MapInfo. So there is like an importer for MapInfo drilling projects as well. So you can interact between the two. All right, so we've also got pretty extensive voxel and block modeling capabilities, and we actually have some new stuff coming out later this year, which adds a lot of the voxel capabilities that we do have in the MapInfo Discover suite. So at the moment, we can import, create, display, and analyze the block models. And we're supporting formats such as Datamine, Vulkan, Micromine, Geosoft, the open mining format, Serpac, NetCDF, and UBC. So it covers quite a large range of the supported formats that most people will be dealing with. Now, also with our product, there are, say, for instance, in ArcGIS Pro, there's a DXF importer, but it's quite slow to import the data. So what we do as a product, we look at these sorts of issues and we create our own solutions for them. So we do have something like a DXF importer, which it's a universally sort of used file format. And yeah, it's if you've got a sort of a multi-gigabyte one, now we allow that to come in at a fairly quick pace, whereas natively it can be quite slow. So when we have sort of customer sort of needs like this, we do find solutions for them. All right, now as far as we're getting into that analyze phase of the data set, of the mining cycle, and we've basically allowed you to import all your data into this is for this example, it's for your drilling data, and you can create plans, sections, and batch these sections. So your drill hole data can be analysed in numerous ways in Discover. The example over to the right is a 2D section. So you can interpolate it, grid it, present it. So you can do downhole interpolations on it. It can just be for the next day's drilling just to see what the interpolations are, or you can present this to investors and management. So like I said, you can create drill hole plans and sections. These can be in 2D and also 3D. So in ArcGIS, it's a 3D scene or a local scene. In MapInfo, it would be Discover 3D. Also, we have quite a lot of tools for the analysis of all your drilling data. So you can see up on the top here, we've got a toolbar. So there's a drilling toolbar and also section 1. So you've got tools like you can do your downhole data analysis. So you can color up, you might do histograms or line graphs or trace shades. We've got a strip log tool. So if you want to present your data in a vertical sense, you can do that rather than just on a planar section. We've got downhole compositing or bulking, alpha beta calculations for all your data coming from the field, and a whole bunch of clipping and other tools in there as well. Okay, so we also have on a section-based analysis, we've got a whole bunch of tools there. And you can see we've got a dedicated tab just for our sections. So what have we got in there? We've got a thing called templates. So you can basically have commonality between all your sections as far as your symbology and all the different layers that are presented on there. So you've got the ability to do that. Little section manager, all these things, if you're using either ArcGIS or MapInfo, they're all very similar concepts that we've brought across between the two products. You can create your own legends. Esri does have its own symbology, but we've got our own legend editor here for certain purposes. So you can create your own, whether it be point, line, or polygon symbology. We have the ability to display sections on your layouts for presentations. You can put your sections into 3D. You can display voxels on sections, whether it's been created or imported. So there's quite a lot of tools that we've got there. And as far as you've got your data analysis on the section, this part deals with the modeling. So we've just kept on increasing the amount of modeling tools. When we first started off with the ArcGIS, there was only a couple, but it's quite extensive now. Excuse me. So what have we got as far as our modeling tools? We've got the ability to extrude across sections. So you can see down the bottom right here, you've done your interpolations on the sections, and then you want to extrude a solid going across those sections. So obviously this isn't at the point where you're going to be mining, but it's great for that exploration phase where you just want to see some interpolations between sections, and that may help you with the planning of your drill holes the next day. You can generate surfaces across sections. So you've got your solids, you've got your surfaces. You can generate planes from structural lines. I'll show you that in the next slide. But so you can do interpolations of structural lineaments on surface, and you may want to project them down. We can create voxel models, clip voxels to surfaces. We can clip voxels with a solid and even reproject voxels. Now, this is a great addition. So we've got a tons and grade calculator. This is a great first pass sort of tons and grade calculation tool. We can use it on continuous, discrete, and we also can do domaining of continuous voxels. So you may want to domain it by like some particular lithology or something like that. Yeah, and you can also group by a legend in your tons and grades. So you might want to do it by certain lithologies, just see what the tons and grades are. And we also have the ability to define that specific gravity or density. So this is what I was talking about, the structural lineaments in the field. So you've gone out, you've interpreted, you've got those blue and red lines there. So there's surface lineations that have been mapped out in the field. And then you've collected your structural data. So we've got tools in there to allow you to project down the planes or lineaments. So you can analyze your projected fault planes and lineations. And once again, you can incorporate this with your drilling data if you're doing that. Okay, so in that analyze phase, we also have a whole bunch of geophysics tool. Obviously, it's not like a full-blown geophysics package, but we cover most of the sort of basic geophysical activities that an exploration geologist should require. And those are the geological filters. So we have fast Fourier transforms, convolution filters, vertical derivatives, reduction to pole, and there's a whole heap more in there. So, and a lot of this has carried over from the MapInfo GIS system as well. Okay, so that was voxel interpolation. This one is our raster interpolation or our surfaces. So what you can do is you've got collected a whole bunch of point data. This might be geochemical data, and I want to create a surface. So we've got a whole bunch of tools in there for that. Usually there's other plugins to ArcGIS that you'll need, but you don't with this one. So like 3D analysts and all that sort of thing. So methods that we supply for creating these surfaces are minimum curvature, inverse distance, triangulation, data density, point separation, so sort of distance, stamping, and LiDAR LAS. So it should cover generally what the most users want. And another tool that we've added just recently is our sort of machine learning tool, and that's using the PCA or principal component analysis and k-means clustering. Sort of been a long time asked for tool by users, and we can do it in both vector and raster data sets. So what this gives you the ability to do is you'll see up here, I think this is a radiometrics data set up on the top left. It's quite noisy, a little bit hard to interpret what's going on there. And then after we've done our PCA and k-means clustering analysis on it, you can start to see there's groups of common data or in there. So you might overlay this with a structural map or a geological map, and you can start to see patterns evolving. And also we have a lot of tools that are designed around sort of structural analysis. So you can see this is in a 3D scene, but you can have your standard structural points. So this is bedding planes and they're all orientated correctly. We've also got the ability to display those structures as discs. So they can just be, you can see the 3 disc types down the bottom. You've just got a simple plain disc just to show you the orientation. Might be the dip and strike, dip and dip direction, whatever you're using. And also we've got a couple of other ones where it can show lineations and their direction, and also the lineation and the sense of movement plus the dip and dip direction there, or dip and strike. So it should cover most sort of structural analyses that you require. All right, and then finally with ArcGIS Pro, there's a whole bunch of other tools for planning drill holes and planning sampling. So you can see over on the right here, you might want to plan drill traverses, sample collections. So you can do all that. You might want to see where your traverse planning is. You might want to do grid planning, point grid planning, drill hole planning. So what we can do is in a 3D scene, you can project from collar down to the target, or target back up to the collar. So, and what this is great for is as you're drilling along, you might want to plug in the latest survey data, so you can actually see this is what I'd planned and this is how it's actually being projected. So you may need to adjust your drilling, so you can use that with this tool. Okay, so that's just sort of a brief summary of the desktop solution. And then what we've got, you may or may not have heard of it, but we've got a Discover Mobile. Now this works across both the ArcGIS and the Discover and the MapInfo Discover solutions. So yeah, there's no separate one for it, and it's available on both iOS and Android. There's no extra cost that comes as part of your subscription to Discover for ArcGIS or MapInfo, and it's free to download off your Play stores. And we've got a little demo data set in there. You can just download it now and have a play around with it. So what is this? This is our collect phase of the exploration cycle. And so Discover, it's seamlessly integrated with the Discover mobile solution, enables you to basically go out there, either take data from the desktop out in the field, or you can collect data, you can modify data, and then send it back. Like I said, it's free to download for anyone. The workflows in Discover Mobile, they're designed specifically for the Explorer. So there's 1,001 of these tools out there to download, but what's great about this is it's targeting the exploration industry, and there's a whole bunch of tools in there just for the exploration geologist. So what we have with Discover Mobile is we find that field mapping, it's sort of like a cost-benefit analysis. And what we've tried to do with Discover Mobile, it's reducing the barriers to data collection. So realistically, you're always trying to find reasons to collect and reasons not to collect. So reasons to collect, you're walking along, something's economic, looks interesting, you can easily walk over to it. There's structures sort of just sticking out of the ground, it's nice weather. So you go and collect it. However, there's always a reason not to collect data. And this is what we're trying to sort of assist with Discover Mobile. If something just looks the same, you can't be bothered pulling out your notebook or whatever, you're tired, you're wet, it's hot, can't be bothered, bit hard to access. So you just can't be bothered doing it. So if you're holding a device in your hand there and you can just easily collect a structure or whatever, it takes you, 30 seconds to do it, you'll do it. But if it's a big process of pulling everything out of your backpack or whatever, you just won't collect it. So you're collecting more data. And that's sort of what we're trying to help alleviate. So what are the features of Discover Mobile? It's basically a dedicated geological mapping tool. We've got sort of integration with our drill holes, so you can see those projected in 2D space. Later on, we will have a little 3D screen in there. We haven't got that at the moment. There's quite a lot of structural tools in there and structural collection tools. It's also built for offline, so quite a lot of the other solutions out there, you have to have a permanent connection to the internet or some cell tower. We don't, so it's sort of designed for that offline use. There's no central DBA required for it. You can just administer it from your desktop. We've got this great sort of outcrop mapping tool in there. that's integrated with Discover. I'll go over that shortly. You also have the ability to connect to a high precision GPS, because quite a lot of our clients, they want to be sure that they're collecting the data right where they're standing and it's not wandering, give or take, 10 to 50 meters or something like that. So we've got the ability to connect to higher precision devices. And what we're trying to do is get rid of those notepads, the cameras, the compasses, all the 6 other things that you require out in the field, because it's all in your hand. Now, this is just a quick video, just sort of showing you if you've got sort of ArcGIS, you've got an ArcGIS enterprise server. They're all the blue dots are the workstations. So what you do is you pull the data down from the central server down to your workstation. So you can sort of have your data going back and forth there. And then now we've got that going out to the field. So your other little blue symbols there, they're your Dart Discover mobiles. So you can have these little pods where you've got a central server going out to workstations and then going out to the field. And that's all sort of a back and forth process there. So this is a typical workflow for Discover Mobile. You'll have your centralized server. You pull the data down onto your workstation. Then you have this JPKG, that's the geo package. So that's what we use for the Discover Mobile project. And then that can be sent out to one or multiple devices. So years ago, it was only just a one-to-one. Now it's a one-to-many. And we also resolve sort of conflicts as they come back. So it's sort of like a round trip. You go from the desktop to the field to desktop, and then back to the server if you need to. This is just a quick video on the workflow. I'll just stop it every so often just to show you, but this is showing you how you got your data. You're creating a project here, and this process here is validation. So you can set lookup tables, you can do increments, you can constrain data values, you can automatically capture GPS X and Y. So that's what that process is doing now. It's sped up just for speed to make it a bit quicker. So this process is you're checking it out to I'll just fast forward that. So you're checking that out to could be an Android device, could be an iPad, whatever it is. So you're syncing that to the device. It's a relatively quick process. And then this is our Discover Mobile. You've just synced it. You've opened up the data. There's all your data from your desktop. You can change all the symbols. This is going through it quickly, but just to sort of show you what it can do. You can set up thematic layers, so you can graduate your colors based on value. This is collecting structure symbols and all that. We've got a little structural tool within Discover Mobile, so you can lay your device down on a plane or something like that and capture it. And all those structure points will be correctly orientated. This is using drop downs, drawing polygons. And then we're going to sync it back to the desktop. And you don't necessarily need to have the internet to do this syncing. We've got 2 methods. You can do it via a cloud drive, or you could even do it via Wi-Fi sync. So you can get little mobile Wi-Fi routers that you can use totally devoid away from the internet. So you can just sync your data like that if you want. And then now this process is just syncing back to the server. Obviously, you need to have your right access to do that. So not everyone will, but whoever's a data custodian, they'll be able to do that. So yeah, and that's pretty much the process of sending the data back and forth. Now, as far as features go in Discover Mobile, built natively on both iOS and Android, which can be an advantage. You can make use of all the different features in each of the operating systems. You can sync, excuse me, by Wi-Fi or using a cloud drive. So we've got that. We've got full vector, image, and grid support. You can set up and use pick lists. So for validated data capture, we've got structural symbol support. You can use thematics from your desktop, or you can create them on the device as well. There's rulers, there's a whole bunch of stuff, geofencing, display perimeters and lengths and areas and all that sort of stuff. I won't go through every single option there. Other couple of features that we've got, you can collect via GPS, you can manually put points down, you can edit geometry, so you might want to delete nodes, add nodes, move nodes, all that sort of thing. Like I said, we've got a structural compass that you can just place your device on a unit and get the dip and strike. We've got waypoint finders. You can enter data, portrait and landscape. You can capture your track traveled. And we also support sort of a spatial and non-spatial data capture with validation. So you may just want to capture just attribute data. You can do that. All right, so one thing that we have done recently, and that's the addition of a base map layer in Discover Mobile. And the mobile projects, we've essentially got two types. There's a shared and there's a base map. A shared will contain vector and raster. It can contain just raster or just vector. It's up to you. However, each time that project is transported over from the desktop to the mobile, you've got to potentially take some big sort of raster data sets. So from feedback from users, we've created a base map project. So you can just have one base map project. You can have multiple, and it contains all your data, all your aerial photography, whatever it is. Send it over to device once, and then that's it, and it stays on there, and it can be used across multiple shared projects. So it just speeds the whole process up, and realistically, you're not changing your base maps that often. So I'll just quickly show a video here. So we're firstly sending across our vector data set. Now we're going to sync across our raster or base map data set. So it's quite a simple process. So there's a Copper Hill raster data set sent across. So what we do is, I'll just stop the video in a sec. We'll just turn in on our vector data set. So that's the data we're going to collect, the point data. And then now we're going to open up our raster base maps. So I'll just pause that for a sec. It's just that button up the top left in the top toolbar. It's got a little image and a sort of a sawtooth sort of pattern to it. That's the base map one. So where you open them up. So now that's been opened, and then we've got our base map there, and that can be shared across all other projects, and that can just sit on there. Okay, we've just got a question from Mark there. Should I generate geotiffs for mobile? Doesn't seem to like MRR. Okay. Generally, what we do with the importing of rasters is you'll have the base GIS will have whatever file types there are, whether they're TIFFs, PNGs, or whatever, and ECWs. And what we actually do in the background is we convert them all to ECWs for efficiency. So as long as a data set can be transferred over into the ECW format, that's all that matters. So the actual starting format isn't as important as long as it's supported. There may be the odd, especially with TIFFs, they're quite a varied format. And there's lots of different compression types. There's the odd one that may or may not be supported, but in general, it should be fine. Yeah, so that process should be relatively seamless. If there are issues, you can always ping the support desk and we can have a look in specific cases of different file types. But in general, all that stuff is handled under the hood. So the actual starting image type shouldn't matter. Okay, so just as an example, this is, we've done a fair bit of work with the large base maps. This is a 6 GB base map. And yeah, just you can see the panning and zooming, the performance. So in the past, this was quite a slow process, used to hold up Discover Mobile. But now, since we've got everything as ECWs under the hood, like I said, the user doesn't have to convert it into that. That's all done for you. You can see it's a very efficient format. So it's the rendering speed's quite good, especially for a mobile device. Okay, so that's the sort of the base maps, which should assist you out in the field. And this one's a great one for compliance or trying to keep within a certain area, and that's the geofencing. It's sort of like an overlooked aspect. So what happens is you get a visual. I'll just run the video as we're going there, but it's you get visual and audible sort of alerts. So a geofence is essentially just a polygonized boundary, and there may be conservation areas, areas of significance, or areas you want to sample within. So it's up to you what you want to use them for. And we've got the ability to have do not enter, do not exit, and they're persistent. So you'll see here in this example on the video that as I enter that geofenced region, I get, and you won't hear the noise, but there's a loud noise, there's a flashing, and that remains until you get out of that area. And the final one is there's a warning when exiting or entering. So there's the persistent one, and then there's the one where you cross over the boundary. And there's also the ability to have buffer zones, because there's things like, say, with crown land areas, you mightn't be able to go 200 meters to the actual polygon. So you want an alert of that buffer. So you can also set buffers within the tool as well. So that's the geofencing. Now, another great sort of productivity tool for Discover Mobile is the thematic layering. And they can be created on the device and sent over. And you can, I'll just play the little video as we're going along. Or you can actually create your own thematics on the device. So if you haven't accidentally done one or you want to do one on the fly, you've got that ability. So you've got that add theme option. You can do it for, might be just individual values. So it might be some sort of alpha value, or you can do numeric ranges. So you might be doing it based on some gold value or whatever it is that you're sampling. So you can set your to and from ranges, you can set your colors, etc. So yeah, so if you've actually, what we've tried to do with Discover Mobile is basically everything, well, 95% of things get set up on the device, on the desktop, and then that gets thrown over to the mobile device. And then you don't really need to do a lot there, but there's the odd thing like this that you may want to add some themes and all that sort of thing. So, but they don't stay with that project. It's just a temporary one. If you want them as permanent, well, you create it on the desktop. Okay, so yep, that's pretty much that one. Also, this is a tool, we've probably had this in about a year or so, and that's the outcrop mapping. So I'll just play the video on that. like in the past, you've been able to take photos, and then they're just photos associated with an attribute there. What the outcrop mapper does is I take a photo, and now you can see here it's being scaled. It's a little bit quick, the video, but what we're doing here is I've taken a photo. I might line up a ruler or a G-pick or something like that, and then I'll be able to scale it. So I'll just keep playing. And then I can start to capture information. So I can capture point, line, and polygon. You might want to capture structures. Here it's doing lineations there, or it might be, faulting or something like that, boundaries. And then I can do a polygonized boundary, might be a geological unit. You can fill in the information. And what's great about this is it's that data will go straight back to ArcGIS or Map Info, and you can see it in real space with all the interpolations in a 3D scene or in Discover 3D. So instead of just having a photo that's completely divorced away from the data, the photo will actually be sort of geo-referenced and scaled correctly. And you can take outcrops, you can take whatever you like out in the field, but it's called Outcrop Mapper. And this is sort of some examples of those outcrops. You've got two different types. You've got sort of a planar one. That'll just sort of sit in 3D space on some sort of surface. You generally do that sort of type if the elevation data is coarse. If you've got, sort of refined elevation data, such as LiDAR, you can drape it. So it gives you more a realistic feel and look. This is another tool. We sort of started to deal with LiDAR data and photogrammetry. So this is a tool called Scaniverse. It's not affiliated with us, but you'll have a look that we can capture that data and bring it into ArcGIS. And you can see the types of resolutions you get from it. It's great. So you can capture this data. Instead of just having a static photo, you go around, take a LiDAR image, and you can sort of see it, and it's almost like being out in the field there. However, they come in as OBJs into, let's say, a 3D scene. We do have our own tool for this as well now. So the caveat with it, it'll only work on iOS-supported devices. And you have the ability to capture LiDAR. So, so you can just basically, if you've set up a photo field, you'll see a little 3D scan option there, and you can go around, capture the LiDAR, and bring it in like I showed you just before. So we've got our own tool to support that now. Okay, just a couple more slides to go, so we're nearly there, everyone. This is our structural compass, and this is a new addition. We used to be able to capture just plane and lineation. Now we're adding a rake functionality, so just to enhance that level of structural support. This isn't out yet. It probably will be out by the end of the month, I'd say. And we support both two main types of structures. So it's using the right-hand rule and the dip and dip direction. So we're supporting both those methods. And yeah, this is a new one coming out very shortly. And to complement our structures, we've also got a little stereo net. And you can have contouring and all that on there. So that's a great way of, as you're capturing your structural data, you can see live in this stereo net, and you can start to see the, build up a story of all the sort of structures as you're capturing them live. So that's a great tool for that. Like I said, one or two more slides to go, nearly there. But this is another great productivity tool, and it's a multi-capture. So in the past, you could only ever capture one sort of layer at a time. With this one, you can capture multiple line or polygon data simultaneously. Why would you want to do that? Well, you might be walking along a track. You're sort of capturing that track. You go, oh, hang on, there's a rock outcrop I want to go over to and investigate it and capture some information. So I pause it. I walk over to that rock outcrop. I capture that as a polygon, put all the information, walk back to the track, resume capturing, and away you go. So it's sort of that sort of scenario that you'd use it for. So it's sort of that multi-capture. And also just to help with the entering of data, so our data entry tool, you can group pick lists. So you can create these pick lists. So instead of having to fill in the data manually, you can select, and this gives you the ability, you can see over here, you might want to have metamorphic, igneous, sedimentary, and you can group the data. So instead of having to have one big long list, you can see them grouped by sort of some sort of common theme, and that's up to the user how they want to do it. We've also got, this is one that was being requested by users quite a lot, is self-populating pick lists. So if you don't have a pick list, but you've got a field where you want to enter data, but let's just say there's only ever 5 values that you put in there. And you don't want to, so it might be names or something like that. You don't want to have to keep on repeating those names, and then you have 5 variants of the one name. So you can see down here on the data entry screen, there's this little buttons with lines and dots there. That's the one for picking out which fields you want to have as self-populating. So as I enter a data, it actually builds up a dynamic pick list that you can select from. And also we have the ability to group fields. So quite what often happens is you've got your layer on the GIS, and it's just one big list of fields. So you can actually group those into sort of logical themes for better data entry. And this is great when you're getting data from, say, a database. And yeah, you may just have one big long table and all the fields there. So it actually gives it some sort of meaning to the user. And finally, yeah, like I said, the different data entry modes. In the past, we could only ever enter data via landscape. So now you can do it also as portrait. You can either manually, there's a little button up the top right, or if you move your device around, it'll automatically go into that mode. So it might just be easy to type in portrait view. All right, and then as far as enhancing your GPS fix and all that, there's our 2 different offerings. You've got the iOS and Android. They do sort of act a bit differently. iOS, you need to usually whitelist with the company. Sort of they've got higher level of security. So currently we support Juniper, Bad Elf, and EOS GPS systems, and we're just testing Trimble. I think it's a DA2. It's sort of their entry level unit, which is, I think it comes around $700-800 or something like that. So just gives you a lot more stability. But as far as Android goes, excuse me, yeah, you're not limited to the system, so you can get a lot more in there. Yeah, it's just so yeah, that's just connect up via Bluetooth and away you go in Android. But yeah, it's just with iOS, you just need to have certain GPS ones to make it work on that. All right, and then what's coming soon in Discover Mobile? Yeah, instead of having to set up all your image and structural and all that sorts of tables, we're going to have it so that they'll all be pre-set up for you. Yeah, so it'll be a lot better experience. We're looking at the file management, so better ways of naming files as they come off mobile and go into the correct file locations and that based on a project structure. Having sort of more relational tables and creating layer views, inheriting symbology and domains from ArcGIS, and the ultimate goal will also be we'll keep our Google Map sort of offering, but we'll have an ArcGIS mobile SDK version of Discover Mobile. So then it'll just be more integrated. All right, I think we've got 2 more slides to go, and This is what's coming soon in, well, it says ArcGIS Pro, but it'll be with MapInfo as well. We've got a tool. It's a smart logger tool, it's called. So this will be a downhole sort of logging tool. You'll be able to put core on it. You can, it's going to be a lot more enhanced version of what we've currently got. So and it's got a lot of customizability to it. So that's coming out soon. And then also this is one that we're working on in both variations and MapInfo and ArcGIS, is a StereoNet tool. We've never really had a good StereoNet tool in on the desktop. So this is sort of something that we're working on at the moment. All right. And then just, I suppose, finally, this is just sort of showing with Datamine, our sort of global reach. We've got sort of offices in most continents there. So depending on where you are, you should be able to contact sales or support or something like that. And speak the specific language that's required. Thanks very much for your time attending. I know everyone's time's precious, and it's feel free to contact us at any stage.